Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Today I'm going to do a little deep dive into the different controller softwares that you can use with your RapidChange Tool Changer and FluidNC. Um, I've used a couple different ones. There's pros and cons for each one, and hopefully in this video it'll help you decide which one to actually use other than the standard web GUI that comes for the FluidNC. Um, this is the RapidChange Web UI, which I went over in the last video how to set everything up. Um, the first software I'm going to look at is OpenBuilds. And you download OpenBuilds from OpenBuilds. It's called OpenBuilds Control. Once you get it set up, um, your machine set up, you basically just scan the network, and the network will find a port and a network port for your machine. And once you load that up and hit connect, it should go ahead and connect. I'm connected to the machine right now. I don't have any tool loaded, but you can see it goes through all its steps, checks everything, the spindle. And the great thing about this program is the ability to edit G code and see what's going on, plus the pro features. So I'm going to go over some of the things here. I have an actual G code loaded. So if I go to 3D view, if you can see here, I got a 3D view that I can pan around, see where the machine is. I can tell the machine right now it isn't home to the workpiece. It shows me how many cuts it's going to do, how many times it's going to go around the outside, or similar. It does a simulation of the cut. But the other great thing that it does also is it has its own editor. So if you loaded this up and said, "Oh, I want to put my dust boot on before the machine starts," you can add a pause, an M0, like it has right here, and the M0. Before it does that, you can check the G code to see if it's loading the correct tool, if the tool is loaded, if your post processor did anything. So it's a pretty good little editor right in here, and if you hit the update 3D view, it automatically updates the file. You can save. There's find section in here also. So if you were looking for something within here that had anything with the M6 command, so if I wanted to see any M6 commands, it would show you if it's going to do any tool changes, and you can update and replace the file as needed. So that's a great part of this controller. Um, it does have all your homing sequences. It also goes to your work home coordinates, so once you set them, it can go right back to them. It does have a probing feature, and a feed rate and spindle on the fly changer. So if your spindle was set to 10,000 RPMs and you found that it was struggling a little bit, or you forgot to load the correct speed for plastic, which is what I usually cut at about 12,000, you can raise this right here, and this would be your spindle speed, and this would be your feed rate. So if you found it was going too slow, you could raise each one of those. It does have a section for macros, which you can create any macro you want. So if you wanted to set it up as a tool change, so M6, let me go caps, M6 T1, and you can label it what you want. Tool number 1 load. You basically do that. You click apply, tool 1, you can change the color of it. Select different icons. We'll make it red, hit apply, boom, there it is. So if I click on this, it's going to automatically run that command that I have set right here. So it's real easy to move around. You can import and export these as you need them. It has a check size for the workpiece. So if you're wondering, if the bit you got enough room, you can do that. The next good feature that it has is it has an XYZ capability for probing. Um, you can probe automatically just the Z, and if you click the custom button here, if you set up your custom probe, you can tell, like, my probe I know is 1.35 millimeters. That's the 3D probe that comes with my machine, or I add it onto the machine. You can set the different widths and the different lengths, and it also has offsets. So if you didn't want any offset on any of these, you would save that, and boom, you confirm the probe position. It'll say confirm that you're in the corner. You click probe, and it probes the just the Z, the X. The X does the sides, or the Y does the sides, so you can get your workpiece centered to where you need it. So that's a great feature. It also has an A-axis, which I use my servo on, and this is for my my automated probe. Um, so that makes it much easier. Um, the only thing that it has surfacing tools, surface your wasteboard. You can check and calibrate your steps. Um, I've never messed with any of the firmware flashing. You don't want to probably do any of that because FluidNC is, is totally separate. This is more of a gerbil base that works with Fluid. They've adapted it to work. You can see all your settings in here, what your feed rates are, what your seek time or seek rate is, and such. So that's basically OpenBuilds in a nutshell, with all the features and um, the things that it can do. Well, from there, we're going to disconnect this one, and I'll close the OpenBuilds one down. And the next one that I've used a lot more of now, is the Universal G-Code Sender. It works about the same way as far as connecting. Um, you set your IP address. You do have to go into the tools and under machine and make sure that I think it's under here, Setup Wizard. Under here is where you do the machine control. Let's see if I can find it. Firmware settings shows you your firmwares. You can export. I know it's in here somewhere. Templates, plugins, disconnect, probing, toggle units to millimeters. And this does, all right, we'll go over this. It basically has a toolbox where you reset your zeros and all that. It has macros the same way. You can see what I have here. This shows your workpiece, which is really important, and that's the only reason I don't like the web GUI for FluidNC. It shows you nothing. You can do measurements, you can check things. The macro section, you can add your own macros, edit the macros. This is the section I was looking for as far as the the connections. You can test your connections and find different things. Universal G-Code Sender, you can see the macros in here. This one has probing mechanisms, but it also has probing surface, like if you were doing PCB boards and such. You can set it to probe 9 points in a square of 100 millimeters and take the differences between them using G54 or 55 or whatever you have it set up for. It's a pretty good, it's a pretty good software. This is what I've used more of recently because of the probing features, which I'll show here. If you go to Tools, and it's under Probing. Let's see, where's the probe? There's settings for the probe, which it shows up down here at the bottom. Here's the hole center one that I was talking about. Basically, you just move the bit a couple millimeters down the center of a hole, and you hit probe the center. And by these settings are what it's going to do, what the end mill diameter, and the work coordinates it's going to store to or read from. So this is a great little addition. I wish that um, OpenBuilds had this. Um, I mean, this one's easier also to set up. Gives you a little more information on what the retract distance and the delay. So if you're doing the XY, probe in this distance and probe offset, so when you go to these settings, it shows you what's actually going on. Negative this way, negative that way. Makes it a little bit easier to understand. Um, so that's why this one's a little bit. I use this a little bit more because I do have to probe hole centers on workpieces when I flip them over to machine the other side. Um, the visualizer works pretty good. I don't know if there's a dark mode on this. I think there's a dark mode. I haven't spent too much time using this one as much as OpenBuilds, but it's pretty much the same. Gives you the ability to do um, the different things that you need to while controlling your machine. Um, so these are the main two softwares that I use with the ATC um, to move around and get jobs done. And the consoles is just the exact same thing with the console. Um, let's see, recent work, no directories, no files. It shows you, what you had if you want these pages here. I have mine set up closer to the garage machine with all my macros and stuff. So let's do a little dive into the different softwares and the differences between them. I hope this helped. Have a great one.